comes. Hello folks, it's a cloudy April 17th, 2024. I woke up this morning with a need for speed, so I just decided to come down to the Indianapolis 500 of the Northeast Corridor south of New York, Princeton Junction. Gonna stay here about 6.5 hours. Main focus will be the Amtrak trains, some work trains, some shop trains, New Jersey Transit Heritage units. Maybe I'll get the Amtrak 642, which wouldn't surprise me in the least. It follows me wherever I go. And those elegant Arrow MUs, the GE Arrow 3 MUs. Love those things. You might wonder why I love those things when I don't like the SEPTA Silverliner 4s. Well, the Arrow MUs have a much smoother car body. They're symmetrical with that center door. They're just elegant. And that AA, hear that? You hear that? That Westinghouse AA2 horn? That is just a gorgeous horn. And for those 50-year-old cars to have an interurban-like horn is most appropriate. Elegance is a word I could never use to describe the Silverliner 4s, and their horns don't come close to the Westinghouse AA2 horn. So let's enjoy it. Don't you love it? Don't you just love it? Reminds me of the old Bud Silverliner, the Bud Silverliners on SEPTA. Wish they were back. Well, time is 12:30. Our first Amtrak customer is 125. From Springfield, Massachusetts to Newport News, Virginia. Used to start out of New York, but was extended to Springfield. Well, 12:32, here comes Amtrak 648, Harrisburg to New York. Cab car first. .38, approaching is 2117, New York, Washington, Acela, 2 hour and 47-minute running time. .45, here comes Amtrak 645, New York to Harrisburg. Cab car first. .48, here comes train 114 from Washington to New York. It's got a lot of horsepower on him. .58, approaching is Amtrak 131 from New York to Washington. He stops here. And he's super powered too. This is to make it easier for turnarounds to have an engine on each end. Familiar sound of Amfleet brakes. 131, wait to depart. At 1:10, approaching on number 1 track, oddly, is train 174 from Newport News, Virginia to Boston. Sort of slowed behind that local. Oh, 174 stops here. It never used to. It's a real local up this way. It stops here, it stops at New Brunswick, it stops at Metro Park, it stops at Newark Airport, Newark and New York. Wow. 133, here comes Amtrak 171 from Boston all the way down to Roanoke, Virginia. Okay, 142, here comes 2159 from Boston to Washington. Should be doing the limit. That's impressive. The only other place I know of where you can see that is Wickford Junction, Rhode Island, maybe Attleboro and Mansfield, Massachusetts. Here's 84. Train 84, Norfolk to New York. 84 passed by at 1:45. Approaching now is 609 from New York to Harrisburg. It's got one of those former Metroliner cab cars on the point.
Stopping at Hamilton and Princeton. Please stand back from the yellow line. Please watch the gap between the train and the platform when boarding.
Interurban sound. Over there is the Dinky for Princeton, getting ready to depart here. Made a connection with 3845 from New York to Trenton. I just like these cars. They just look so much better than SEPTA's version. And I can't complain about the horns. You should be leaving momentarily. Notice the blister on top of that car on the Arrow MU, it's very small. On the Silverliner 4, the blister is like 3/4 of the tops of the car length. It just, I don't know. Well, time is 2:35 p.m. Have a bit of an Amtrak lull here, but that's going to change pretty soon. You got 5 westbounds coming that are leaving New York or about to leave New York. You got 133 to Washington, 93 to Norfolk, 2121 to Washington, 647 to Harrisburg, and 19 to New Orleans. Now at 2:41, amidst a light rain shower, is Amtrak 133 en route from New York to Washington. Double-ended. equipment move, probably out of Morrisville at 247. All right, this Jersey Arrow is moving out of his holding area. I believe he just changed shifts now. We've got 2 trains coming from New York. 253, this is 650 from Harrisburg to New York stopped. And coming now is 93 from Boston to Norfolk with transit right behind them. He's at a 255. Now approaching at 255 is 2121, Acela, New York to Washington. Next westbound at 258 is 647, New York to Harrisburg. Approaching at 303 is 2166, Washington to Boston, Acela Express. Is 19, the Crescent, New York to New Orleans, Louisiana. The old Southerner and Southern Railway days. Here's the Dinky. His engineer that just started his shift. All right, here goes the Dinky at 21. Listen to that Westinghouse AA2 horn. He's blowing it pretty good. Well, if you folks in Philadelphia remember what the horn sounded like on the old Bud Silverliners and the St. Louis Car Company Silverliners, that's it. Well, we're at the parking lot crossing at Princeton Junction Station. That's the Princeton branch going there, or the PJ&B, Princeton Junction and back. Get to hear some more AA2 music. A lot of railroad equipment even today, other than these things, have the AA2 horns. The PATH trains have them. The Staten Island Rapid Transit trains have them, or Staten Island Railway, and the Broad Street Subway has them. Also the new CRRC subway cars in Boston. Here it comes. What an interurban sound. This is almost like an interurban, this short dinky scoot. There's talk about turning this into a busway, but I would think the people of Princeton would be influential enough to keep it as is. Well, here's Arrow MU car 1312. You know, it has windows like a Silverliner 4. Obviously, it has the center door that the Silverliner 4s don't have. Now notice the top. You don't have that huge braking blister up there. You have some electronical equipment up there, like a transformer or something, but just have that little vent over the doorway, and just some electrical appliances, bus bars, and of course the pantograph. But it looks considerably different from a Silverliner 4. It's cleaner, much more, I don't know, what's the word I want to use? Streamlined? It just looks good. And the horn sounds good on this. Well, at 3:57, I'm back at the main line after chasing Arrow MUs and listening to those Westinghouse horns. Approaching now is Amtrak train 85, en route from Boston down to Richmond, Virginia. Part of a whole fleet of Amtrak trains on the Northeast Corridor that go into Virginia, Norfolk, Richmond, Roanoke, Newport News. Hurry up. 358, 184, Washington to Boston. Funny thing about New Jersey Transit today, I've seen all non-heritage units on the trains. I was, diligently looking out to see if it had a heritage unit. One time I had my guard down, the 4640 was on the rear. Another thing I've noticed around here, look at that parking lot, loaded. And that parking lot over there, loaded. It'd be hard pressed to find a parking space. Right after the pandemic started, this place was virtually empty, so it's encouraging and gratifying to see this back again. All right, 403, off goes the Dinky to Princeton. He's off. Play that funky music. All right, once more with feeling. Can't you imagine that sound on some little electric line in the middle of Iowa? Well, approaching at 406 is a train that was once the flagship of the Seaboard Airline Railroad, the Silver Meteor. Runs from New York to Miami. Today it primarily runs down former Atlantic Coastline track. It uses the Seaboard Airlines track as it gets closer to Miami. There's that a great observation car on it, a sun lounge car with huge windows. I rode on it in 1965. .412, time for 150 again. 2168, Washington to Boston. You'll be doing that all the way to County Interlochen. All right, approaching at 416 is train 42, Pennsylvania, en route from Pittsburgh to New York.
Junction customers, the next train to stop on track 1 will be the 4:25 p.m. eastbound train to N Station, New York, stopping at New Brunswick.
439 coming up track 1 is something interesting. Looks like some light engines, Amtrak engines. .73 Boston, Washington. By at 5 o'clock on the dot. 5:04 p.m. It's time for more 150-mile-an-hour spectacles. 2170 Washington, Boston. Playing my song. This is one of those hotshot transit trains, 3943. Goes nonstop, Newark to here. And I believe he has the disco engine on the back, the 4640. I missed them going up, getting a second chance. Yeah, these express trains on New Jersey Transit are very popular. I see loads of people getting off this train here. You're nearly 50 miles from Manhattan here, and it's pretty slick that you can take a commuter train all that way and get here in an hour. All right, let's get a good look at the 4640 disco engine. This engine was featured on the 40th anniversary New Jersey Transit excursion and went from Penn Station, New York to Bayhead. Teamed up with Pennsylvania painted 4636. When I saw that train earlier, that engine was shoving also. Proof positive that it negotiated the loop at Sunnyside Yard. Approaching at 5:27 is Amtrak 129, New York to Washington. He stops here at Princeton Junction. A super-powered train. It's got an ACS64 on each end. Oh, 623 is looking a little worse for wear there. Yeah, I love these engines. Love the sound when they start up. They fly. They'll never replace the GG1s though. Yeah, you got a few Amtrak trains that stop at Princeton Junction. Some New Brunswick, Metro Park, of course. I remember a train I rode on. It was a Penn Central Amtrak train. I'll tell you in a minute. Ah, there's the class unit, number 600 on the back, the David gun. Well, like I was starting to say, I rode a train out of Philadelphia back in '71. It was right after the Amtrak takeover. It was a Sunday night train pulled by a GG1 and all kinds of mixed bag of coaches, Tuscan red cars in it. It was train 282, departed Sunday only out of Philadelphia 30th Street at 9:15. He stopped at North Philadelphia, Trenton, Princeton Junction, New Brunswick, Metuchen, Rahway, Elizabeth, Newark, and New York. Imagine a GG1 haul train being such a local on a clocker. That's a sound of yesteryear, but it's quite common on a number of transit agencies today. The Bud Silverliners, I remember, on the Reading and the Pennsy, used to sing that music. .537 approaching is Amtrak 148 en route from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, Massachusetts. This train 3947 cools its heels. Okay, 539, it's 150 mile an hour zone again here. 2167, Boston, Washington, non-stop New York, Philly. You're talking about that Philadelphia, New York clunker local. It was a slow clocker is what it was. The clockers were Pennsylvania Railroad trains that departed New York every hour on the hour for Philadelphia and vice versa. They used to make Newark, New Brunswick, Princeton Junction, Trenton, North Philadelphia, and 30th Street Station. Every hour they ran. The last train left Penn Station, New York at 12:01 a.m. I've ridden on a few of them. They were sort of like expresses. There she's interrupting me again. But you know about the clockers. The clockers today have been replaced by the Keystone trains between New York and Philadelphia and then continuing on to Harrisburg. But they make the run a lot faster and make fewer stops, usually Newark, Trenton, Philadelphia, in as little as an hour and 20 minutes. You're the donut guy. You got to have donuts. I'll be insulted if you don't.
All right, I'll take it.
You know, give you some energy so you can make it to New York in 30 minutes.
Try. At least it's better than the other day.
Why? What happened?
When they had the wire down on
oh, damn.
was it Monday. Yeah.
First time I saw you with an engine on this.
I know. Yeah. Every other time is cab car. Well, because of the project out in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we take this with us.
All right. All right, bud. Safe trip. You too, sir. More 150 mile an hour stuff here. 603, 2172, Washington to Boston. It's getting kind of chilly. Ooh, and to think they go much faster in Europe and in Japan. Time is 6:05 p.m. Here comes that Morrisville bound, at least that's where I think it may be going, deadhead move of Arrow MUs. Got to get these while you can. I think by the end of the year they're going to start getting some of those double-decker EMUs. I'm going to miss those things. .608, that was 176, Washington to Boston. Caught me by surprise. 6:15, getting kind of dark. Train 193 is coming from New York to Washington. Comes the Crescent 20. 6:21, that was train 20, the Crescent from New Orleans to New York. Well, it's 6:37, the last Amtrak train I'll see on this long afternoon of hot Amtrak action will be 178 from Washington to Boston. The Arrow MUs put on a good performance as well. Exhilarating to the stand-byers here. Oh boy, great afternoon here at Princeton Junction, one of the hot spots of the Northeast. Oh, lucky me. 6:43, here comes train 3870, Trenton to New York. This is an express, makes Princeton Junction, New Brunswick, Newark Airport, Newark, and New York. And I'm going to have the privilege of having the disco engine pull me to New York. How about that? 4640. On track 3 in Penn Station. Arrived on time, 3870 from Princeton Junction to New York.